Welcome to the Kendo and Aido Italia podcast in this English language version. Enjoy listening.
Welcome again to a new episode of Kendo and Aido Italy. Today we'll be tackling a topic a little outside the usual, let's say, technical. Still, it's a really fascinating figure. We're diving deep into the sources today on someone quite singular in Japanese history, Hattori Hanzō. A true legend, right? Known as this superb strategist, master ninja, but also, crucially, this incredibly loyal samurai serving Tokugawa Ieyasu.
That's exactly it. That's the mission. We're trying to trace the history behind the legend because the reality is often, more brutal and complex. The sources really detail his journey, from those shadow-filled mountains of ego where he learned his craft to becoming this indispensable figure for the Tokugawa shogunate.
And that immediate hook, that nickname he earned, Oni Hanzō, Demon Hanzō, it captures that duality perfectly, doesn't it? The fierce protector, the loyal guard, but also this master of the shadows capable of, absolute ruthlessness. Why we need to dig in.
Right. So let's start where he started. The Forge of the Warrior, his origins are in Iga province. Think mountainous, isolated terrain.
Pretty remote, yeah.
Very. And those dense forests, the hilly landscape, it was almost tailor-made for developing ninjutsu, espionage, infiltration, guerrilla warfare. Just a natural training ground.
And that location wasn't just geography, it shaped the politics too, right?
Yeah.
I understand Iga was kind of unique, not really controlled by a major feudal lord. They had their own system, local clans running things.
Exactly. That autonomy was key. It meant the shinobi community there could protect their secrets, perfect their techniques generation after generation without outside political meddling. Kept their skills sharp, their philosophy undiluted. They were the elite, really.
So that freedom didn't mean easy living. It meant intense focus, self-imposed discipline. How did Hanzo's own upbringing sort of blend that samurai tradition? His father, Hattori Yasunaga, was high-ranking with the, let's say, necessary ruthlessness of a shinobi.
Well, his training was intense, started young, maybe around 8, and Yasunaga deliberately combined both worlds. So physical mastery wasn't just swords and spears. It was silent movement, scaling castle walls without leaving a trace, using the environment to become, almost invisible.
It's easy to focus on the physical stuff, the fighting. But the sources really stress the mental side. Was developing that mind of iron, that calm in the face of death, purely practical, or was there something more philosophical there?
Oh, it was deeply philosophical, but also intensely practical. Ninjutsu demands incredible patience, mental toughness. Think about infiltrating somewhere you might have to stay absolutely still, hidden for hours. That's an ultimate test. And then there were specialized skills he mastered, like the Henojutsu.
The transformation technique. That sounds like something straight out of legend, but it was practical. Key for operational security, I imagine.
Absolutely practical. It was about mastering identity. He could convincingly become a monk, a merchant, a simple villager, changing his posture, his voice, even his accent. Combine that with knowledge of herbs, poisons. He was the complete package for covert ops.
Which brings us back to his father's influence, that core lesson. Hanzō was raised with samurai loyalty, Bushido, but the shinobi path demanded actions that weren't always honorable. How did the sources say he dealt with that conflict?
Yasunaga essentially prepared him for the darker elements, as you put it. The core idea was loyalty and discipline above all. But true loyalty meant doing whatever was necessary, adopting any role, even sacrificing personal morality to ensure victory and survival for the lord you served. Duty trumped everything.
And that level of dedication didn't go unnoticed. Tokugawa Ieyasu, during the chaos of the Sengoku period, quickly saw Hanzo's potential. Not just as muscle, but as a strategic mind.
Yes, Ieyasu was sharp. He saw Hanzō offered more than just combat skill. He started relying on him for advice, strategy. Hanzō became more of a consultant, an essential one.
And that value was proven, dramatically so, at the Battle of Mikata-ga-hara in 1572. A major defeat for Ieyasu, right? Against the famous Takeda Shinga.
A potential disaster. Yeah, Shingen's forces were larger, better positioned, using that tough fish scales formation, the yorin, designed to just absorb attacks.
That sounds incredibly difficult to crack head on. So Hanzo's role was unconventional warfare.
Exactly. He led this elite unit, Iga Ninja, mixed with loyal samurai. Pure guerrilla tactics, using the mountains, small group ambushes, natural barricades, branches, rocks, anything to disrupt and break up the Takeda cavalry charges. Classic shinobi thinking. Adapt, disrupt, exploit.
So he managed to slow the enemy advance by some time. But Ieyasu still had to retreat. Hanzō's job then became getting the army out intact.
Yes, and preventing a rout. He orchestrated a brilliant controlled withdrawal using psychological warfare, the empty height strategy.
Right, the fake campfires, the war drums,
Yeah.
making it seem like they were preparing a counterattack.
Precisely. Lit huge fires, sounded drums all night in the abandoned camp. The pursuing Takeda forces hesitated, thinking Ieyasu was setting a trap. It bought crucial time, secured the retreat, and saved the core of Iyasu's army. A tactical masterpiece born from defeat.
It really cemented his reputation, didn't it? Not just a warrior, but incredibly shrewd, a strategic thinker.
And then about 10 years later, 1582, came the ultimate test of that loyalty and strategy. Oda Nobunaga is assassinated by Akechi Mitsuhide.
Which leaves Ieyasu completely exposed. Stranded near Osaka, deep in hostile territory. Hunted.
A desperate situation. He needed to get back to his home base, Mikawa. The only viable route was a dangerous trek through the mountains of Iga, Hanzo's home turf.
So this was Hanzo's moment. The audacious plan, the Iga crossing. He had to call in every favor, use every connection he had.
Every single one. The sources emphasize the sheer scale of the coordination using secret messages. When Ieyasu reached the Otogi Pass, Hanzō met him with around 300 Iga ninja ready to escort him. That's Hanzō putting his entire network, their lives, on the line.
And the journey itself, how did they pull it off?
Masterfully. They used hidden trails, dense forests for cover, set up ambushes, false trails to throw off pursuit. Hanzō personally led rapid, deadly strikes against any bandits or patrols they encountered, making sure Ieyasu himself was never in direct danger. It was an incredibly dangerous, high-stakes gamble, but it worked. Getting Ieyasu through that chaos basically made Hanzō Iyasu's savior, and the reward reflected that. Ieyasu gave Hanzō command of his own elite unit, 200 Iga ninja. They became known as the Hanzōmon.
So they became Iyasu's personal guard, his special operations force. That's a huge step, integrating the Hanzō family right into the heart of Tokugawa power.
Absolutely. And as Hanzo's power grew, so did his legend. His ability to move unseen, to just disappear. It fueled rumors among soldiers, whispers of supernatural powers, which inevitably led to that nickname, Oni Hanzō.
Demon Hanzō. It's such a powerful image. What exactly does Oni imply here? Is it like a Western demon?
Yep.
And did Hanzō encourage this reputation?
It's not quite a Western demon. Think more of a terrifying, powerful entity from folklore. Something commanding immense fear and respect. And yes, Hanzō absolutely used it. Sources suggest he strategically used his spy network to spread these stories, enhancing his mystique. Fear was another weapon in his arsenal.
That aura must have been useful, especially leading up to the final showdown at Sekigahara in 1600. His role there wasn't just fighting, it was more about intelligence, right? Information warfare.
His biggest contribution there was probably intelligence, yes. He set up this huge, layered spy network. It fed Ieyasu constant, vital information about enemy movements, plans, weaknesses. That intel edge was critical for Ieyasu's victory.
And he was still involved in direct action, too. Sabotage missions, disrupting enemy lines before the main clash.
Oh, yes. Leading infiltration teams, hitting supply lines, sowing confusion right before the battle, weakening the enemy psychologically and logistically, plus, of course, personally protecting Ieyasu during the fighting itself.
So, after Sekigahara, the Tokugawa shogunate is established.
Yeah.
Peace, relatively speaking. What was Hanzo's role then? Did he shift focus?
His final, maybe greatest contribution was about maintaining that peace. Internal security, he established this incredibly effective system of internal espionage.
The Onmitsu system, those who see everything. That sounds pervasive. What did it involve?
It was essentially a network of spies, many drawn from those loyal Iga and Kuga clans. They operated undercover throughout the country, especially in Edo, disguised as artisans, merchants, monks, you name it.
So Hanzo realized that winning the war was one thing, but keeping the peace required constant vigilance, preventing threats before they even started.
Exactly. The Amitsu monitored the court, the provinces, sniffed out dissent, potential plots. They were the shogunate's eyes and ears, disarming threats quietly. You could argue the stability of the whole Edo period, all 250 years of it, owed a huge debt to this internal surveillance system Hanzo put in place. It was his ultimate strategic legacy, perhaps.
An immense legacy indeed. He seems to have stepped back from the front lines in his later years, focused more on training the next generation.
Yeah, sources suggest he spent his later years supervising, training, maintaining his authority, but less involved in active operations.
And then there's that fascinating possibility about his very end, after a lifetime of violence, espionage, moral compromises, becoming a Buddhist monk.
It's a compelling idea mentioned in some accounts. Whether it was seeking peace, atonement, or just a final withdrawal from the world he helped shape. It's hard to say for sure. A profound potential ending for the demon Hanzō.
He was eventually buried at Seininji Temple in Tokyo. And they still have his lances there, right? A tribute to him. He was clearly more than just a loyal warrior. He was a strategic visionary. His grasp of intelligence, threat perception, it really ensured the Tokugawa regime lasted.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to consider. This figure, Hattori Hanzō, who perfected ruthless efficiency in service, who perhaps sacrificed his own morality for duty, if he did end his life as a monk, what does that tell us about the weight, the burden of that kind of life in such a violent era? Was it a final escape or maybe a form of ultimate understanding?
We hope this topic was of interest to you, and thank you again for staying with us until the end. Bye and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this podcast.
Kendo Ieyasu Italia, il podcast.